Hi, my name is Sam and welcome to my YouTube channel. Today we're going to talk about my past in the world of hospitality. And before we do that, it would be amazing if you could like this video and subscribe to my channel down below, and also leave a little comment about the video and about your potential experience in hospitality, or also just a smiley face just to help the algorithm. That would be amazing. And let's get started. So I'm going to be completely honest. I won't be very kind with some of the things that I will say about hospitality, but this is not a video where I want to say or imply that I am better than working in hospitality, or that hospitality is beneath me. What will transpire from this video is that I did not like it at all, for reasons that I will give you in a moment, but it's not at all my intention to offend anyone that works in hospitality, and people that like it as well, because I know for a fact that there are people who like working in hospitality. So this is just one of my very long chats, and it's my personal experience. So just to give you a bit of background, I am a full-time singing drag queen now, but when I moved to London 14 years ago, I moved to study screen acting. I did 2 years of screen acting, and the first year I didn't work at all because I had never worked in my life before, other than I used to be a tutor, and then I come from a family of farmers, so I used to work in the fields, but I never had an actual job. And hospitality is just not for me. I wasn't programmed or built for hospitality, so I tried to stay away from it for as long as I could, and I regret that, because obviously I weighed on my mum's finances a lot the first year that I was here, but then I started working in hospitality as a waiter, like most students and primarily actors and artists do. And then so that's how my career in hospitality started, and then I'll take you through all the different steps and changes in that career. So after the first year of just being here and studying and not working, I had to find a job in hospitality, and I didn't even know where to start. I didn't even know how to write a CV, so I had to learn all of that on my own with the help of some of my friends from my acting school. And then I started applying everywhere in the area where I lived. I don't live there anymore. And I applied to pubs, to restaurants, to anything that I could get my hands on. Now, mind you, I don't even drink, so even as a bartender, I had no idea what the drinks were. I didn't know what they tasted like, or what cocktails were made of. So, I was never a bartender, luckily for me, because if it just would have been a bit too much. And then so I started handing out all my CVs everywhere, and then I never really heard anything back. Then I got, with a friend from school, I think we went to an area that was not the closest to me, but I thought, she told me that she lived around that area, and she knew that there were a lot of restaurants and places looking for staff, especially because I started in the summer, so that was the perfect time to start. So I went and I handed out as many CVs as I could, and then I got my first trial shift in a fish and chips shop. Yes. And I did my trial shift, and to be honest, so I'm not a physical person. I'm the brainy one of the family. My brother is a mechanic, so he's the manual person in the family. I am all about languages and maths and performing. But I have to say, I mean, the shift itself was very simple. I just had to lay the table in the way that they showed me, and I thought I'd done pretty well, everything considered. Now, I did get a comment from the manager about my shorts. Now, in general, maybe I will make a video on this. I do not believe in the power of clothing. You know, I don't care about the message a clothes can get across. I own very few clothes, even though I'm a drag queen. All my drag clothes and all my normal clothes, winter and summer clothes, they fit in the one wardrobe that I have. Because I don't buy clothes, I don't care. And for me, clothes are just something that makes you look pretty. So I buy clothes that accentuate my beauty. I don't buy t-shirts with any writing on it. I don't want to send a message just because I don't care. And I know if there are anyone involved in fashion and all of that you'll probably unfollow me and report me to YouTube. But it's just not. I'm a non-customer for that. It's just not for me. So I own very few clothes, and I don't believe in formality. I don't believe in having to wear a specific attire to look the part. And I hate the fact that we live in a society where we are conditioned to expect and believe that a lawyer should wear a suit. I hate the fact that if the best lawyer in the world introduced themselves to you, wearing shorts, you wouldn't give them the benefit of the doubt. And I hate the fact that although I am against this, even I've been conditioned so much that I would be slightly shocked by the fact that, the lawyer is wearing shorts. But I want to fight it with all my might, because I don't believe in it. I want to be comfortable, and I don't think what we wear should reflect who we are. So it was summer. I went wearing a pair of shorts. They were not gay shorts. They were just normal shorts. But I thought nothing of it. But then the manager made a comment at the end of the shift, and I think that's what resulted in me not getting the job. And then I still went around that area, and I got another trial shift. I walked into this Vietnamese restaurant, and they gave me a trial shift. I went wearing long trousers, and to my great disbelief, I got the job. Now, great disbelief for two reasons. First of all, again, I never thought I was. Well, I know that I'm not programmed for manual and physical jobs, primarily because I don't like them, and also they're just not in my DNA. And also, I didn't know that I was any good. And also, actually, the shift went really well. Even I could tell. I just had to do very, very basic things, and they knew that I had no experience, and they knew not to expect anything from me. So everything went well. The only problem was that at one point, I basically just delivered food. There was a lift, and the food came on the lift, and I just had to take it and deliver it to the tables. And everything went well up until so it was a Vietnamese restaurant. So one of the dishes was those wooden baskets, usually for pancakes and stuff like that. But inside there was 3 stuffed squid. And I will never forget this. I spilled the whole basket, which was covered, but when it flipped, obviously it opened, and so I spilled the whole thing and I dropped it on the beautiful red pink dress of a woman who I assume was going to go to the theatre after that. Well, she was going somewhere, she hadn't just dressed up for my restaurant. It just went all over her, all 3 pieces of squid. And I was mortified for her because, again, she wasn't just wearing a t-shirt, so I'd ruined whatever night she had planned. And also I thought, well, that's my job gone now. But no, I got the job. The manager told me that, you know, these things happen, which is true. So she was actually surprised. I think she also said she was surprised that I hadn't made more mistakes, considering that was my first attempt ever, apart from the other trial shift that she didn't know that I'd had. I got the job. I was happy that I could make some money. I was devastated that money had to come through my being a waiter, because again, it's not something that I would ever have imagined doing, and it's not something I would ever want to do again. It's just not for me. No disrespect to people that do it, and we need people that do that. And that's how my career started. Now, I have to say, I had a very good trainer. So the manager that hired me, she was very good at her job, and she was very good at teaching, and she was very good at accepting mistakes. And as a teacher myself, I really appreciate it. So although her skills were applied to something that I don't particularly care about, she is good, and she trained me well. And as I've mentioned in a lot of other videos, I do not believe in modesty, and I will say this: I was really good, to my great shock. And I worked in that Vietnamese restaurant for 3 years, and when I was in school, I could only do a couple of evening shifts and weekends. But then when I stopped, when my school ended, obviously I had to try and make a career out of my acting, and that never happened, which is why I'm a singing drag queen now. But at the time then, I started doing morning shifts. We were open from 12 to 10:30, so I started doing morning shifts and then double shifts because I needed money, and I was left in charge of the restaurant as well, in the morning especially. And over the years, I can't believe I'm saying this, but I was good. But I always thought, if I can do this, anyone can. I was not put in this world to be a waiter, because it's just not a skill that I have. But if I can do it, anyone can. It turns out not everyone can. It was so shocking for me to see that we had a lot of trial shifts for people. People in hospitality, they come and go. So you always need. There's always a big and quick turnover of staff. So we were always on the lookout for new people, and you wouldn't believe how incapable people are. And I have to say that being a waiter, at least in the context that I was a waiter in, is not hard. It's not a hard job to do. It's physically demanding, of course, but it's not hard. All you need to do is care a little bit, and I was constantly angry at myself because I cared too much. I can't not care about the things that I do, and I hated myself for putting so much life and soul and blood and sweat and tears into this job, because it didn't deserve it. Not because it's beneath them, just because it's not what I want to do. I just wanted to get the money and go home because I wanted to be an actor. But yeah, I think the difference between me and other people is that I care. So it was shocking to see how stupid some of these people were, how slow. And in England, it's mainly foreigners who become waiters and bartenders. English people don't really want to do that. So some of these trial shifts, well, some of these people had issues with the language, which I mean, that is the only good excuse that we'll accept, because in terms of, physical things that you have to do as a waiter, come on now, it's easy in the context. Again, it was a family restaurant. It was not fine dining. It was very down to earth. It really did not require any skills other than common sense that I refuse to believe so many people do not have. I need to believe they just did not want to make the effort of applying it to being a waiter. But yeah, I was there for 3 years. I hated every single moment of it, even though I had it easy, because everyone in the restaurant was very nice, I have to say. This restaurant was in East London, and apparently it had won quite a few awards, but it was, again, no Michelin star or anything like that, and it was still very much a small family-run business. People would travel far to come to the restaurant, but again, even in terms of uniform, we didn't have a uniform. We just had to look presentable, not wearing shorts. But nothing, there was no specific requirement or anything like that, so I had it easy. But even then I hated it, because I just don't like the idea of serving food. I hate cleaning in my normal everyday life as well, so simply just wiping the cutlery, the bowls, the plates and the glasses. I hated it. I hated making drinks. Luckily we didn't really have many cocktails, so we had 2 or 3 that even I could make. I hated the interaction with people. I love interacting with people in general. I'm an English teacher and I'm a drag queen, so I'm a very social person, but I hated having to interact with strangers like that in that kind of context. And again, we never really had any big problems with customers. They tended to be fairly nice, but it's just not what I want to do in my life. So yes, 3 years came and went, and then I still couldn't really make anything out of my acting career, and I decided to change jobs, still as a waiter, but I applied for Wagamama. You may not be familiar with Wagamama. It's a very big Japanese food chain in England, and I'm sure I've seen a few branches in Italy already, and I'm sure it's not just in England. In England, it's one of the biggest chains ever, and I didn't know that, well, until I started working there. It's an institution. It doesn't do sushi. It does other Japanese food, soups and ramen and udon and all of that. And the reason why I changed was that I was aware of the fact that my acting career wasn't going anywhere, and while I was trying to, make something of my life, I thought at least I could earn more. Now, the problem with my Vietnamese restaurant was that I earned the very bare minimum, whereas in Wagamama you get paid more, you have more hours, you get still minimum wage, but then you have a lot of tips. So anyway, it's just more money. And I thought, while I'm getting angry at the fact that I have to be a waiter, I might as well make a bit more money out of it. So after 3 years I left, and don't get me wrong, the manager that hired me left after a while, and I had a terrible human being as a manager afterwards. He put me through hell, and I think it's because he was gay and he fancied me and he couldn't admit it to himself. I mean, so he made my life hell. But then Wagamama, that was the worst experience of my life. Wagamama is very fast paced. It's basically a fast food with waiters. if you're not familiar with it, I'll explain the concept. It's really not glamorous. It's to the point where you don't even sit on your own. So this style is done on purpose. It's it's a flagship. It's a flagship of Wagamama. The way you sit, you have benches and long benches and long tables with benches, and the benches are shaped in a one-person seat or two-person seat, but you don't get the full table, you get just the bench. So you might be sitting here with your friends, but then next to you have another table of 5 people, and when I say next to you, I'm talking like this distance, like human distance between a bench and another one. So it's not glamorous, it's definitely not fine dining, and yes, I describe it as as McDonald's with waiters, because you don't even have your private table, and it's all very fast paced, which is a very typical thing in Asian food restaurants. You order starters, mains, but everything comes out as it's ready. There is no order. We don't wait for you to finish. We just deliver the food as soon as the kitchen is ready. Now, why was it a horrible experience? Let me say something positive first. If you want to be a waiter as a career, Wagamama is very fair, and it's very easy to go from just a waiter to manager and then to GM, so the general manager if you want to. They pay you everything that they owe you. There is no gimmicks or anything like that. It used to be because I stopped 10 years ago, it was minimum wage, but you get tips in England. So it was a decent amount of money. So if you do want to be in that environment as a career, go. But if you're just there to make a bit of money and to survive, for me it was terrible, because that's why I only lasted 6 months, because it's so very fast paced. People think they are kings and queens, and they want to be treated as such, even though they are sitting on a bench next to a stranger. And my branch was in the bank district, so we only had bankers and lawyers, and they are not nice people, at least not the ones that we had. Don't get me wrong, also normal civilians used to come, and also some good bankers and lawyers were there, but primarily they had just 1 hour for lunch, and they were brutal about it. And then what was insane for me was the pace of it all. Because it's part of a chain, we had mystery diners, meaning that the company sends people that they hire as fake customers to come and test the quality of our service. What does that mean? It means that we have to adhere to certain rules. So when you see a customer, as waiters we have different sections. You can be the seater, or you can be a waiter at the table. When we see a customer come in, and they are seated, if they're sitting in my section, I have 1 minute to acknowledge their presence. I just need to nod at them, or say hi, just so they know that I know they're there and that they exist. Then, if I remember correctly, and this was 10 years ago, I have 3 minutes once I give them the menu, I have 3 minutes to get their drink order, and then I have 5 minutes to get their food order, and then I must do a check back, which is understandable, and there are some things that you must do, and also when you offer desserts, you need to go with the menu that has desserts and also coffees and teas and all of that, and you must say 3 specific words that I can't remember. Is it like, do you want tea, coffee, or hot drinks? I mean, there are 3 specific words that you must say, because if you don't, and that customer is a mystery diner, they will mark you down, because the company wants you to say those words. And so it's all about that. it's all about this fast pace. It's all about giving good service. Don't get me wrong, I understand that, but it was just the pace of it all, and because it's so busy, this chain is so popular. I remember once something shocking happened to me. You know when you watch films and people are having nightmares and they wake up and they go, they sit upright and they go, and I thought, who does that? That doesn't happen in real life. Well, it does, because one night I was so stressed out by this job that I was dreaming that I was working in a Wagamama, and I had to sit people down and get my job done. And then I remember going, and then I realised I was just dreaming. It was just a dream. So I told myself, okay, just go back to sleep. And then what shocked me even more than just, the waking up was the fact that I knew that I was sleeping. I knew it was a dream. And I said, okay, go back to sleep. I said, yes, I will go to sleep, but let me sit these two people first. So I was still half in the dream. And nothing like that had ever happened to me. There is a lot of pressure. And you need to be fast, even with the cleaning. If you are behind the bar, so they have one designated person behind the bar, and if you're behind the bar, you are inundated with drinks, and then you need, while you are serving drinks, while you're making the drinks, you don't serve them, you also, after 10, you need to start cleaning, because at 11 the kitchen closes and we need to go home as soon as possible, and it's insane. The whole system is insane. It makes sense, I can see it, I understand it, but for human beings, it's just not feasible. And yes, it was extremely intense. The hours were insane. Most waiters and most bartenders, they never get 2 days off in a row, and I think that should be legally forbidden. I mean, it should be illegal, because I did have 2 days off, but randomly in the week, meaning that, well, because we had different shifts, so morning, evening, and then doubles. You work so many hours that when you're off, so the first day you're off, you just want to sleep, you have no energy, and then it's time to work again, because you don't have 2 days off in a row. And that destroyed me mentally, the fact that I could never have a break. And in the 6 months that I was there, I made a lot of money, and I'm eternally grateful for that, because I needed it, because then I used that money to get my qualification as a teacher of English as a foreign language. But in that 6 months, I didn't see my friends, because I had no time, and when I had a bit of time, I was too tired. I was just paralysed in bed, and even if I had wanted to meet friends, I would have had no stories to tell, because I could not have told them that, I'd been somewhere, I'd done something, because I hadn't, because I was working. So even my life got empty, because I had nothing to share, nothing to say, nothing to tell people. And I just couldn't take it anymore. And I hated customers even more than my previous job, to the point where, as I said earlier, I detest cleaning with a passion. It's just, I hate it, and my brain doesn't even give me the stimulus to clean. My brain doesn't care. But in Wagamama, we had, guess what, a schedule that we had to follow in terms of cleaning, a weekly cleaning, monthly cleaning, and I got to the point where I wanted to stay away from customers so much that I kept begging my manager to put me on cleaning duties as soon as possible. Obviously, at peak hours, we couldn't clean because we had to be on the floor and serve. But as soon as they deemed it feasible for one of us to step away and start cleaning, I wanted to be that guy, because I hated customers so much that I would have rather clean. I mean, that's where I understood that something was wrong, because for me to want and to beg people to let me clean, that's just not me. Again, it's great, there are people that love that. I'm not one of those people. It's just not me. So after 6 months, I had to leave. Also because I really disliked some of my colleagues, not the colleagues, the managers. We had 3 managers and a GM. The 2 managers I liked, but one of them was so lazy, and so she really did not care. And I was like, she didn't really work at all, and it was so blatant and so just in your face that I had no respect for her, and I couldn't bear it. I couldn't bear it. So yes, that was the worst 6 months of my life. Then, and this is, I have to tell you the system. So the way it works is that when you first join Wagamama, you have training, obviously, and then so the menu, next to each dish there is a number, and that is the number that we need to put into the system. So we basically have like a smartphone where you make the order, and we as waiters, we can't start being on the floor and serving customers until we know all the numbers. Because let's say you order chicken katsu curry, which is the most popular dish in Wagamama, but you order the name as a customer, but I need to put the number in. So I need to know that I think it's number 73 or 71. So as waiters, we need to learn all the numbers of all the dishes and drinks. If you order a Diet Coke, I can't type in Diet Coke, I need to type in like 103. I mean, I was so traumatized that I think I still remember some of them. So that depends on you. So the longer you take to learn, the longer you will be in sort of training, and you don't get tips if you don't go on the floor. So even the fact that I had to learn all these numbers, I couldn't believe it. But this company is so famous, and the company is so popular, that people that go to the restaurant, they know the numbers, because they love the dishes so much that they know the numbers. So when I used to tell people that even now, if I tell people that I used to work at Wagamama, they say, oh, I love number 73, oh, I love number 64, because they like them so much that they remember the numbers. It's insane. But hey, then after that, I decided to become officially an English teacher. I'd been a tutor my whole life. I used to tutor my brother, all his friends, all my friends, and while I was here and when I was studying, I also tutored a few people in English as a foreign language, but unofficially. And then I thought, again, my career as an actor is not really going anywhere, but in the meantime, I need to do something better than being a waiter. Again, it's not because it's beneath me, it's just because I hate it, and it kills my soul at that level, especially. So with the money from Wagamama, the good thing about Wagamama is that not only do you make a lot of money, but you save a lot of money because you have no time to spend it. So it just accumulates. So I took that money to become an English teacher, and then I thought that would be it for me. I thought that while I was waiting to become an actor, I could be a full-time teacher. Somehow I did not want to work in a school, because also I don't have a degree. My acting school does not qualify as a degree, so nobody would hire me in an official language school. Also, I wouldn't want to work there because of the bureaucracy, and because of the fact that I want flexibility to be a performer as and when needed, or if at all. So I wanted to do private lessons and group things, but as soon as I finished my course, that was the end of May, I was lucky enough to be hired by a summer school. Now, summer school I can do because it's only 2 months, and I desperately needed the money by then, because the teacher trainer course was only 1 month. But first of all, it cost me money to be there, but also it's full time and you can't work. It's insane the amount of work that we had to do to become teachers, so you don't have time to work. So that month I had no income. So with the money from working mama, I had to pay for the course and also pay for my life while I wasn't working. So by the time I was done with the course, I was desperate for money, and luckily I got this summer job which kept me going for the summer. And then unfortunately I had to go back to hospitality because my teaching wasn't enough the way I wanted to do it. But this time I didn't I didn't start working for a restaurant or a pub. I started working for a company that for an agency basically. So when there is a big event, a specific company needs extra staff to set up, a bigger lunch than usual, or there is a premiere of a film, something like that. They need manual labour of people that will set up, everything. So that's what I did. It was better because I could turn down jobs whenever I wanted, so it was very flexible. I didn't owe anyone an explanation. I could go on holiday whenever I wanted to, unpaid, actually no paid, but very little. I could take as much time off as I wanted to. There was no obligation, and I could decide which shifts I wanted and where I wanted them. If I wanted to do a very early shift, a very late shift, a long shift, it was perfect in terms of the service that it provided. In terms of what I had to do, I found that even worse than being a waiter, because we were literally, yes, we would have to, maybe not worse, but it was bad in a different way. When you watch films and you see those people carrying trays of flutes full of champagne, I was that guy. But not just doing that, so that would have been an evening event. But if there was, I used to work for a lot of banks and big law firms, so I worked in very fancy places, as more or less a slave though. Let's say there was a big event in this company, and the event was a big breakfast. Now I didn't cook, I didn't make any food, but I had to be there at 5 a.m. to start setting up the whole, the tables and where the food goes and where the coffee goes. So I was the guy bringing teas and coffees and biscuits into meeting rooms in law firms, for example, or banks, or when we had these bigger events, I was the one setting up the tables for the buffets, if the lunch was a buffet, and I was the guy serving the food to the people coming to the buffet. It was very physically demanding, I have to say, in terms of the setting up. And I also did fine dining. Now that was beyond horrendous for me, because just like I said earlier, I don't believe in the power or meaning of clothes. I don't believe in the power or meaning of etiquette and formality. So fine dining, if you're not familiar with it, is that concept where you have, next to your plate, you have different 2-3 sets of forks, small, and then spoons and knives are smaller and smaller, because one thing is used for this, one thing is used for that, one thing is used for something else, and then you have the teaspoons for dessert in front of you. And we had to set all of that up, and we had to lay those tables, and I was in that environment for 2 or 3 years, I think, but and it got to the point where I was hired as a highly skilled waiter, but I felt so uncomfortable because I wasn't hired. I was good, and compared to people that did that for a living, like agency work for a living, some of them were rubbish, and you wouldn't believe the amount of job offers that I got, because obviously when I went to this bank, let's say, they had their permanent staff, but they just needed extra staff for that specific day, for that specific event. But you wouldn't believe how many managers in these venues offered me a full-time job because they liked how I worked, and I was like, no, never. And I couldn't believe that they wanted to hire me. But I can also see why, because first of all, I can speak English, because most of these agency people don't speak English, they're not English. and also because I cared and people took to me. So I can see where they were coming from, but I was like, never in my life will I want to work like this forever. It's just not me. And the hours, again, 5 a.m, it wasn't always like that. But yes, setting all these things up was physically demanding. I had a lot of help, but yeah, going back to fine dining. So yes, I was hired as someone who knew all about these things after a while, but I didn't know anything because my brain rejected the idea of learning where to put the spoons and where to put the forks, because I think it's so unnecessary in life. There are so many bigger problems in the world. Just grab that spoon, grab that fork, and eat everything with it. I'm sure there might be people involved in that business. I am sorry, I just don't agree with it, and I think it's scandalous that something like that even exists on a human level. I do apologize. I mean, I don't even apologise, but I don't mean to be disrespectful, but it's just how I feel about it. So I laid those tables several times, but I never knew the order of the forks and spoons because my brain refused to remember that. And I'm actually very happy. I'm very proud of myself, because even though I hated that job, I still cared, and I hated myself for caring, but I was very proud of the fact that at least my brain didn't learn anything, because at the time I felt that was wasted brain energy. So every time there was a fine dining, I needed someone to tell me where to put the forks. Now, once they showed me once, I could replicate it, but I could never have initiated it. And then we did the events where people didn't even have water bottles on the table, because every time they wanted to drink, they needed. So I was assigned to a table, and I had to make sure that they had everything. And if I could see that the glass of water, well, the glass of whatever was empty, I had to fill it up before they even had the chance to ask for more. And I am someone who drinks a lot of water when I eat. I would have hated to be one of those people sitting. So these people are all fancy people who love fine dining. Yeah, they love this idea of being served and treated like kings and queens. I would hate it, because I would hate the fact that every time I want to drink, which is all the time, I would have to wait for a waiter to come over. I would feel so disrespectful to the waiter. Oh gosh. And then we had to serve bread, and you have to serve it from the right, from the left, from the right. The whole concept is, my brain just not only does it not understand it, but I don't even condone it. I mean, it shouldn't exist. So that was awful. But then luckily, my teaching started taking off, and then I became a full-time teacher online. And then I kept a few private students in person, and I had a few, for a couple of years I had small Saturday morning groups that I used to teach in person. Then I let those go as well. Then I became a full-time online teacher, and then a drag queen, and so that was it. But yes, I have great respect for waiters now, and also I am, because in England we tip waiters, and as a waiter I get a lot of money from tips. We are required to be nice, not only for the tips, but also because the company wants us to be nice, obviously. And I was, as much as I hated myself for being nice, I was nice. They're too nice. And but because I don't like all these frills, just like with the clothes and all of that, when I go to a restaurant, I don't like overly friendly waiters, because I'm there to eat. And again, I'm not there to make friends, and I'm not saying that the waiter is beneath me and they shouldn't dare to even look at me. No. But a restaurant is not a place to make friends unless I go with my friend. And when I see this, some waiters try too hard or they try to talk too much, I get really upset, because again, it's not the place. I go to a restaurant to eat, so I just need the hand that brings me food. Again, I don't mean it in a superior way. So I don't want to say that I'm superior to these people and I'm above them. No. I actually don't like being served. I prefer buffets because I can go and get the food that I want. The idea of having someone bring me food makes me uncomfortable. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. They're not slaves. They're there because they want to be there to some extent, just like I wanted to be there. Well, I needed to be there. So I know I'm not doing anything wrong, but it just makes me uncomfortable. And I don't care if waiters don't talk to me, or so I don't care if they're not friendly. In England, people pay great attention, too much attention to how to customer service. I don't care, as long as they bring me food, and unless they are, as long as they're not actively rude for no reason, I don't mind. I just need them to bring me the food and let me eat. But I know that this is not the same for everyone. One of our family friends, he's in his 50s, if not 60s, and he is a waiter by choice. That's his profession, and he loves it. He's not just a waiter in Wagamama. He works as a maître in very fancy restaurants. But he loves it. It's his calling, and his dream has always been to work on cruises. But because he has a family, obviously he can't, because that would put a lot of strain on the relationship and the family in general. I don't understand what he gets out of being a waiter. I genuinely do not understand it, but I love the fact that he loves his job. So I have great respect for that, because I feel really sad that in the world not many people love the job that they do. As someone who adores what I do, I'm happy for him. I don't see where the happiness... Well, I'm happy that he's happy. I don't see where his happiness can come from. But if he feels it, that's great. It's just not for me. It's not something that brings me pleasure. And also, especially with the first job, I was lucky that I had nice people, nice customers. But I've had bad customers as well. And I just don't... My brain doesn't understand it. So yes. So that was my experience. So let me know if you've ever worked in hospitality before, to what extent, what kind of hospitality you've done. And on that note, I will let you go.